The childhood sweetheart I protected since we were kids, the girl I hadn't even dared to touch out of respect, had bloomed for someone else on a college campus. She cried, telling me she'd given away her most precious gift and asked if I still wanted her. I just smiled and handed over my marriage license. My first time was already reserved for my bride, and unfortunately for her, it wasn't her. Youth is full of regrets, but in this world, there are no do-overs. The message from Maya Stevens on my phone screen felt like a needle driving straight into my eye. Caleb, we're done. Followed by, Brad is a better fit for me than you are. I stared at those words, my blood rushing to my head until my ears rang. My nails dug so hard into my palms that the sharp sting was the only thing stopping me from smashing the phone right then and there. Maya and I had known each other since we were in diapers. I had treated her like my entire world. I'd skipped meals to save up for the dresses she liked. I'd stood in the pouring rain for 3 hours just to bring her a specific latte. I'd planned every single corner of my future with her in it. I thought we'd get married right after graduation. I thought we were building a home. But now, she was telling me that Brad Montgomery, the guy who drove a Porsche and wore nothing but designer labels, was a better fit. A better fit? Or just a better bank account? I suppressed the white-hot rage, my fingers trembling as I typed a single word. Fine. No begging, no questions. I knew that when a woman used fit as an excuse, the verdict was already final. The phone rang instantly. It was Maya. I swiped to answer, but said nothing. Her voice came through, a mix of faux sob and impatience. Caleb, what's that supposed to mean? Just fine? Don't you have anything else to say to me? I could practically see her face, the furrowed brow, the self-righteous sense of being the victim. I almost laughed. What do you want? Congratulations? Maya, do you honestly think I'm going to get on my knees and beg you to stay? I didn't mean it like that. Her voice softened. I know you were good to me, but we're just different. Brad can give me the future I want. Can you? Look at you. Besides working 3 jobs and being cheap, what do you have? I'm tired of living a life where I can see the dead end from miles away. A dead end? I bought her the newest iPhone while I used a cracked hand-me-down. Her dresses cost $1,000 while I'd worn the same 3 t-shirts for 3 years. I gave her everything I had, and in her eyes, that was a dead end. So, you just climbed into Brad's bed to find a shortcut. My voice was ice. Silence followed. Then, she screamed in a fit of defensive rage. Caleb, you jerk. What kind of person do you think I am? I just lost the most important thing a girl has. I was drunk. It wasn't on purpose. She started crying, that perfect performative sob. I regret it, Caleb. I really do. Can't you just forgive me? You said you'd love me forever. Please, come pick me up. I'm so scared right now. Listening to her crocodile tears, my stomach turned. Regret? Scared. Now you remember me? Too late. I took a deep breath and spoke with the calmest, most clinical tone I'd ever used. Maya, do you know what the most important rule is after you throw trash into a dumpster? She paused, sniffing. What? Never pick it back up. I hung up and blocked her on everything. The world finally went quiet. I looked out at the gray Chicago sky and pulled out a second phone, one with only a single number saved. A number I hadn't dialed in 3 years. The call connected, and a gravelly, authoritative voice answered. Well, boy, you finally decided to call? Is your little game of playing commoner over? I closed my eyes. When I opened them, the heartbreak was gone, replaced by a cold, sharp clarity. Grandfather, the game is over. I'm ready. I'm coming home to take over. Welcome home, Caleb. The next morning, as I walked out of the campus dorms, a line of black Rolls Royces was idling at the curb. An elderly butler in a crisp tuxedo stepped forward and bowed, opening the door for me. Students stopped in their tracks, whispering frantically. Wait, isn't that Caleb Harrison from the CS department? His family is that rich. No way. He's always dressed like a total townie. I heard he was on financial aid. I ignored them, my face a mask of indifference as I sat in the car. The smell of high-end leather and the climate-controlled silence made the last 3 years of crowded buses and cramped dorms feel like a fever dream. Sorry to keep you waiting, Thomas, I said quietly. The old butler bowed slightly. Not at all, sir. Your grandfather has prepared a welcome-home dinner. I leaned back, watching the city blur past. 3 years ago, I'd rejected the family legacy and made a bet with my grandfather. I told him I didn't need the Harrison name to build a life or find real love. He just laughed and said, when reality beats the hell out of you, you're always welcome back. So I'd gone undercover as a regular college kid. I thought I'd won when I met Maya. I thought that was real love. Now, I realized I'd lost spectacularly. Reality hadn't just beaten me. It had slapped me across the face. Without the Harrison name, I didn't even have the right to protect my own heart. Phoenix. That slap was exactly what I needed to wake up. The motorcade eventually pulled into a massive estate overlooking the lake. This was home. My grandfather, Arthur Harrison, a man whose shadow loomed over the entire American Midwest business landscape, was sitting on a leather sofa, swirling a glass of neat scotch. He looked up as I entered. "You're back." "I'm back." "Learned your lesson?" "I did." "And the girl?" "Gone." "Because of money?" "Yes." That was all that needed to be said. Grandfather set his glass down and sighed. "Caleb, remember this. When you don't have power, your sincerity is worthless. This world belongs to the strong." He stood up and clapped a hand on my shoulder. "But you learn by falling. From today on, you aren't Caleb, the broke student. You are the sole heir to the Harrison Group. Go get cleaned up. Change your clothes. We eat in an hour. Thomas has your new IDs and cards ready. Throw the old ones away." When I stepped out of the shower and into a bespoke Italian suit, the man in the mirror was a stranger. Gone was the boyish look of the cheap t-shirts. In its place was a cold, natural elegance. This was who I was meant to be. At dinner, Grandfather pushed a folder across the table. "This is the deed to the Pinnacle Luxury High-Rise. I've already signed the transfer. Go finalize the paperwork tomorrow." I opened it. The Pinnacle, the most exclusive residential tower in the city. Unit started at $5 million, and he was giving me the entire penthouse wing. "Grandfather, this is..." "Didn't your girlfriend say you couldn't give her a future?" A cold smirk played on his lips. "I want to see what kind of future can compete with the top floor of the Pinnacle. By the way," he added casually, "I hear that Kid Brad's father runs a company called Apex Tech. They're a subcontractor for one of our subsidiaries, aren't they?" I caught his drift instantly. "Yeah, Apex Tech." Grandfather took a sip of his tea, his tone light as air. "Thomas, send the word out. As of tomorrow, the Harrison Group and all its affiliates are permanently terminating all contracts with Apex Tech." "The reason, sir?" Thomas asked. Grandfather glanced at me. "Tell them they're so raised a son with no manners," and it made the young master unhappy. The next day, I drove a modest Volkswagen at Thomas's suggestion for a low-key entrance to the Pinnacle Sales Center. I didn't call ahead. I wanted to see what my value was in the eyes of others without the Harrison crown on my head. The moment I stepped into the marble-floored lobby, the scent of luxury was overwhelming. Several sales agents in sharp blazers were chatting. They glanced at me, saw my old sneakers and worn jeans, and went right back to their gossip. Not one of them approached me. To be fair, I looked like an intruder in a $500 outfit. Only one girl, a rookie by the look of her, hesitated before walking over with a brochure. "Good morning, sir. Are you here to view a unit?" she asked with a shy smile. "Yes. I'd like to see the penthouse duplex," I said calmly. The girl blinked, a flash of surprise in her eyes, but she stayed professional. "Sir, the penthouse is our crown jewel. It's nearly 9,000 square feet with a private pool and..." "Chloe, are you insane?" A sharp, screeching voice interrupted. A woman in heavy makeup and high heels, clearly the manager, strode over, eyeing me with pure disgust. "Who do you think you're bringing in here?" "The penthouse." He couldn't afford a square foot of the laundry room. The woman, Manager Vance, looked me up and down, her eyes dripping with contempt. "Look at him. His whole outfit doesn't even cost $50. Don't waste your time, Chloe. Get him out of here before he lowers the property value just by standing there." Chloe turned pale. "Manager Vance, he's a guest." "A guest? He's a loiterer," Vance sneered. She crossed her arms and looked at me over her nose. "Listen, kid, this isn't your neighborhood. Exits to the left. There's a McDonald's down the street. That's more your speed." I looked at her face, feeling nothing. I'd seen her type 1,000 times. Just as I was about to speak, a commotion broke out at the entrance. "Mr. Montgomery, you're here. You're looking sharp today, sir." Brad Montgomery walked in, his arm draped around a familiar figure. A swarm of sales agents followed them like they were royalty. It was Maya. She was dressed to the nines in a designer gown, her makeup flawless, clinging to Brad's arm with a wide, triumphant smile. Then she saw me. Her smile froze. A flash of panic and embarrassment crossed her face. Brad followed her gaze. When he saw me, he froze for a second before bursting into an exaggerated laugh. "Ha ha! Well, if it isn't Caleb." He pulled Maya closer, raising his voice for the whole room to hear. "What are you doing here? Oh wait, I get it. Applying for a security job? Or maybe handing out flyers. See, Maya, I told you. Without you, he can't even afford to breathe." Maya looked down, unable to meet my eyes, her face flushing crimson. The surrounding agents started snickering, looking at me with mockery. Manager Vance scurried over to Brad like a loyal dog, her voice dripping with sycophancy. Mr. Montgomery, don't let this nobody ruin your mood. I'll have security kick him out right now. Brad soaked it in, looking at me like I was a trophy he'd won. Caleb, you see this? This is the life Maya deserves. What would you give her? A studio apartment with roommates? A bus pass? He pulled a black card from his wallet and tapped it against his palm. Vance, what's the most expensive unit you've got? That penthouse duplex? I'm in a good mood today. I think I'll buy it for Maya as a little moving on gift. Vance's eyes lit up so bright, they practically glowed. Mr. Montgomery, you are truly a legend. I'll get the paperwork ready immediately. Maya looked up, her eyes wide with delight. She hugged Brad's arm. Oh, Brad, you're the best. She shot me a quick, smug look. It was the look of someone saying, see, this is what you could never give me. I watched this circus, Brad jumping around like a clown and Maya looking blessed, and I actually found it funny. I shook my head and pulled out my phone, dialing Thomas. Thomas, I'm at the Pinnacle. I want the deed transfer finalized now. Also, tell the CEO of the development to get down here in 3 minutes. I didn't shout, but in the quiet lobby, everyone heard me. After a beat of silence, the room exploded in laughter. Ha ha! Is this kid for real? 3 minutes? Who does he think he is? I am dying. He's watched too many movies. Brad was laughing so hard he had tears in his eyes. Baby, look, your ex has finally lost his mind. Maya looked at me with a mix of pity and disgust. Caleb, stop this. It's over. You're just making yourself look pathetic. Manager Vance put her hands on her hips. Security? Where are they? Get this psycho out of here. 2 security guards rushed over, reaching out to grab my arms. I didn't move. I just looked at them coldly. I'd advise you not to touch me. My gaze was so icy that the guards actually flinched. They hesitated, looking at each other. Idiots. He's a broke kid. Just throw him out. Vance shrieked. At that moment, the glass doors were nearly kicked open. A middle-aged man with a receding hairline and an expensive suit came charging in, nearly tripping over his own feet. He was drenched in sweat, his tie askew, his face a mask of pure terror. Who is Mr. Harrison? Where is Caleb Harrison? He screamed. Manager Vance's face instantly shifted back to her fake polite mask. Mr. Sterling, what brings you here so suddenly? This was Mr. Sterling, the CEO of the entire Pinnacle project. He didn't even look at her. He scanned the room frantically. When his eyes landed on me, he visibly shuddered. He lunged forward, nearly falling. Mr. Harrison, please forgive me. I had no idea you were arriving today. I should have been at the door. I deserve to be fired. I am so sorry. And then, to everyone's absolute horror, he dropped his knees right in front of me. The silence was deafening. Everyone's smiles were frozen. Brad's jaw dropped so low it could have hit the floor. Maya turned as white as a sheet. Manager Vance looked like she was about to have a heart attack. Her knees buckled, and she nearly collapsed. She couldn't process it. The broke kid she'd been insulting was the Mr. Harrison, who could make her boss's boss kneel in the dirt. I looked down at Sterling. I said 3 minutes. It's been 2 minutes and 58 seconds. You're punctual. Sterling was shaking, sweat pouring down his face as he bowed his head. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. It's my fault. My management is a disaster. I allowed these blind fools to disrespect you. He whipped around and roared at the catatonic Manager Vance. You, and the rest of you, are you blind? Get over here and apologize to Mr. Harrison before I ruin your lives. Vance and the other agents scrambled over, dropping to their knees like falling dominoes. Mr. Harrison, I'm so sorry. I'm an idiot. I'm a fool. Please, have mercy on me. Vance wailed, actually slapping her own face in a panic. I didn't even look at her. My gaze drifted past them to Brad and Maya. Brad's face was a mess of pale and purple. He couldn't understand how the guy he'd spent years mocking had suddenly become the one man his father's boss would bow to. And Maya, she just stared, her eyes full of shock, confusion, and a burgeoning, deep-seated terror. I walked slowly toward her, a mocking smile on my lips. What's wrong? Don't recognize me? I thought you said I couldn't give you a future. I held out my hand. Sterling immediately understood, placing a fountain pen and a leather-bound folder into my palm. Right there, in front of Maya, I could sign my name on the final page of the deed. As of right now, this entire building, including that penthouse you wanted, belongs to me. I tossed the folder onto a nearby table. Is that future big enough for you? Maya was trembling, her lips quivering, unable to form a single word. The Caleb she knew, the frugal, stubborn, boring guy, was being overwritten by this powerful, terrifying man who could buy a skyscraper with a signature. Her brain was short-circuiting. Brad finally snapped out his trance. His face was twisted with rage, but his pride wouldn't let him accept it. "You're faking it. This is all an act," he screamed. "Caleb, you hired these actors, didn't you? You think you can scare me? You're nothing." He turned to Sterling. "Sterling, have you lost your mind? Kneeling for this loser? Do you know who my father is?" Sterling stood up and wiped the sweat from his brow. He looked at Brad like he was looking at a dead man. "Your father? Mr. Montgomery, by tomorrow, your father won't even be able to afford a bus ticket." Sterling cold smiled. 5 minutes ago, the Harrison Group headquarters issued a total termination of all business with Apex Tech. They're also calling in every single outstanding debt and suing for breach of contract on every active project. "What?" Brad staggered back. "That's impossible. My dad is tight with the VP at Harrison Group." "The VP?" Sterling sneered. "He's a nobody compared to Mr. Harrison. The VP is a janitor." "Because Caleb Harrison isn't just a client," Sterling continued, his voice echoing. "He is the sole heir to the Harrison Group empire." The words hit the room like a bomb. The sole heir? The color drained completely from Brad's face. He finally realized the magnitude of the tiger he'd been poking. His wealthy family was a grain of sand compared to the mountain that was the Harrison Group. He was done. His family was done. "No, that's not possible," he muttered, his legs giving out as he slumped to the floor. Maya looked like she'd been struck by lightning. She began to replay every detail of the last 3 years. Caleb had always been humble, but he never actually acted like a poor person. He'd always said his family did a little business. A little business. The Harrison Group controlled half the skyline. She had traded a god for a peasant. She had abandoned the heir to an empire for a guy who was about to be bankrupt. The sheer absurdity and regret washed over her like a tidal wave. She looked at me, her eyes filled with desperation. "Caleb, I didn't know. I really didn't know." She stepped toward me, reaching for my hand. I stepped back, my expression cold. "Of course you didn't, because you only see dollar signs, not people." I turned to Chloe, the rookie agent who had been the only one to treat me like a human being. She was still frozen in shock. I took the pen and wrote her name and a series of numbers on a deed. "The penthouse unit. It's yours," I said. Chloe gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "What? Mr. Harrison, I can't. That's worth millions." I said, "It's yours." I handed her the document. "Also, you're the new sales director for the Pinnacle. You're replacing that idiot." I pointed at the shivering manager Vance. Chloe's eyes brimmed with tears as she bowed deeply. "Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Thank you." Without another look at Maya or Brad, I turned and walked out. Maya's shrill, heartbreaking scream followed me into the street. "Caleb, don't go. Let me explain. I love you." I didn't slow down. Love? Her love was cheap and was far too late. I drove straight to the Harrison Group headquarters. The skyscraper was the city's landmark. I took the private elevator to the top floor. Thomas was waiting. "Sir, your grandfather is expecting you." I pushed the doors open. Grandfather was standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out over the city. "Is it done?" he asked without turning. "Yes." "How do you feel?" "Nothing," I said honestly. It felt like stepping on 2 ants. Grandfather turned, a glimmer of pride in his eyes. "Good. Remember that feeling. When you stand high enough, the people who once caused you pain become nothing but dust. From now on, you stay by my side. Learn the business. I'm getting old, and this empire needs a king." The following weeks were a blur. I became a sponge, soaking up everything about finance, management, and global trade. Grandfather taught me everything, and the board of directors treated me with absolute reverence. They realized quickly that I wasn't some spoiled brat. I was a sleeping lion that had finally woken up. A week later, Grandfather threw a gala at the Harrison-owned 7-star hotel. Every socialite and billionaire in the city was invited. It was a business mixer on paper, but in reality, it was my coronation. I stood in a white tuxedo next to Grandfather, accepting a never-ending stream of flattery. Men I'd only seen on the covers of Forbes were now bowing to me. "Mr. Harrison, so young and so capable. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I hope we can collaborate soon, sir." I handled it all with a polite, distant smile. This was the taste of power. It made the world bow. Suddenly, a stir broke out at the entrance. I looked over and saw someone I didn't expect. Maya. She had clearly tried her best. She was wearing a cheap, rented gown and heavy makeup that couldn't hide the exhaustion in her eyes. She didn't have an invite and was arguing with the security guards. "I'm here for Caleb. I'm his girlfriend. Let me in." Her voice was drawing stares. I frowned. Thomas caught my eye and signaled the guards. But before they could drag her away, a clear, elegant voice rang out. "Let her in." I turned. A girl in a silver silk gown was walking toward me. Her hair was like dark silk, her skin like porcelain. She was breathtaking, a masterpiece. Serafina Thorn, the daughter of the Thorn family, and the woman my grandfather had selected as my fiancée. I'd originally hated the idea of an arranged marriage, but the moment I met her, I realized I didn't mind at all. Serafina slipped her arm through mine naturally and smiled at the guards. "I'm Caleb's fiancée. Does my word count?" The guard bowed. "Of course, Ms. Thorn." Maya was allowed in. She stumbled toward us, her eyes locking onto me, and then onto Serafina. When she saw Serafina's arm linked with mine, she turned ghostly pale. "Caleb, who is she?" I looked at Maya's face, filled with jealousy and disbelief, and felt only boredom. Before I could speak, Serafina laughed. It was a light, musical sound, but it cut through Maya like a blade. "What an interesting question," Serafina said, eyeing Maya like she was a bug under a microscope. "Can't you tell?" She squeezed my arm. "I'm Caleb's fiancée, his future wife. But who are you? I don't believe we've met." Maya shook, barely able to stand. "Fiancée? No. That's not true." She hissed, her eyes wild with envy. "Caleb loves me. We grew up together. Where did you even come from?" She glared at me, her voice shrill. "Caleb, tell me, this is a joke, right? You're just trying to make me mad. You hired her to get back at me, didn't you?" The guests stopped talking, watching the drama unfold with amusement and disdain. A discarded ex-girlfriend crashing a high society gala was the height of pathetic. I looked at the spiraling Maya and spoke, my voice devoid of emotion. "Maya, you got a few things wrong. First, we're over. You are nobody to me. Second, I'm not trying to make you mad, because you aren't worth the effort. Third, I lifted Serafina's hand and kissed her knuckles, my eyes softening. This is Serafina Thorn, my fiancée. We're getting married very soon." Each word with a hammer blow to Maya's heart. Her face went through a spectrum of colors before settling on a dead, grayish white. "No." She sobbed, tears ruining her makeup. She realized then that it wasn't an act. I really didn't want her. I had moved on to someone 1,000 times better. Why? We were so good together. I made one mistake, and you do this to me. One mistake. I laughed, stepping toward her. "Maya, it wasn't a mistake. You never respected me. In your eyes, every sacrifice I made for you wasn't worth as much as Brad's car or his house. You didn't love me. You loved what I did for you. You loved having a backup you could treat like a dog. Now that Brad is bankrupt and can't buy you shoes, you've come crawling back. Do I look like a recycling bin for trash?" My voice wasn't loud, but it cut deep. Maya had no answer. She just held her head and sobbed. The guests whispered, their eyes full of disgust for the gold digger. Serafina pulled gently on my sleeve. "Caleb, let's not waste our breath. Mr. Sterling is waiting to say hello." Her voice was like a cool spring, washing away my irritation. I nodded. She was right. I gave Maya one last look, a look reserved for something with zero value. "Security," I said. "Escort this woman out. She is banned from all Harrison Group properties for life." "Yes, Mr. Harrison." Two large men grabbed the limp Maya and dragged her toward the exit. "No, Caleb, you can't do this. I love you. Give me another chance." Her screams echoed through the hall until the doors shut. I didn't look back. The moment she chose to betray me, she was dead to me. After she was gone, the gala returned to normal, but the way people looked at me changed. They saw my edge. Decisive, cold, and ruthless. That was the mark of a leader. Serafina stayed by my side, navigating the room with grace. Her intellect and poise were remarkable. Grandfather had chosen well. She was the perfect partner for the future of the Harrison Group. "Thanks for that," I said during a quiet moment. Serafina sipped her champagne and winked. "For what? Catching a fly? It was my pleasure, Mr. Fiancé." He smiled at Herwitz. Being with her was easy. I didn't have to walk on eggshells or constantly prove my worth like I did with Maya. "I didn't expect you to let her in," I admitted. Serafina looked at me seriously. "Why not? Sometimes you have to let the wound drain to let it heal. Let her see. Let her know exactly what she lost. That's the real punishment." I looked at her impressed. She wasn't just beautiful. She was sharp. "You seem to know me pretty well." She smiled, her eyes crinkling like half moons. "Of course. We're two of a kind." She was right. Born into power, we both saw through the masks people wore. We knew what we wanted, and we knew how to get it. After the gala, Grandfather called me into his study. "I saw what happened," he said. "Good work. What's the plan for the Montgomerys?" A chill entered my eyes. I'm going to pull them up by the roots. Grandfather nodded, satisfied. Apex Tech is already filing for bankruptcy, but a dying camel is still bigger than a horse. They still have some side assets. I'm giving you the files. Finish them off. Consider it a training exercise. I have one requirement. Within a month, the name Montgomery should be erased from the business world. Yes, grandfather. I took the files, feeling a surge of adrenaline. This wasn't just revenge. It was my final test. Over the next month, I lived at the office. With Thomas and an elite team, I launched a full-scale assault on the Montgomery's remaining holdings. Short selling, hostile takeovers, media pressure. I used every weapon in the Harrison arsenal. The Montgomery family was like a sinking ship, helpless against the storm. Brad's father, Robert Montgomery, was once a player, but now he was a desperate man being shut out of every room in the city. No one would help him. No one dared cross the Harrisons. Finally, after a week of silence, my phone rang. It was Robert. His voice was a raspy, broken mess. Mr. Harrison, please, have mercy. Let my family live. We were wrong. I've already beaten that son of mine until his legs are black and blue. Just stop this, and I'll do anything. I listened to his pathetic begging with a cold smirk. Mercy? Did you think about mercy when you were laughing at me? Mr. Montgomery, in this world, you reap what you sow. I hung up. Robert didn't stop there. When he couldn't reach me, he went to Maya. He figured since she was my ex, I might still have a soft spot for her. He didn't know me at all. One afternoon, Thomas walked in my office. Sir, Maya Stevens is downstairs. She says she won't leave until she sees you. I didn't look up. Tell her to get lost. She says she'll stay on her knees in the lobby until you come down. I stopped writing. She just won't quit, will she? I walked to the window. From the top floor, I could see the lobby through the glass atrium. Maya was there in a simple white dress, kneeling right in the middle of the marble floor. She looked thin, pale, and pitiful. People were stopping to stare. She was trying to use public shame and sentiment to kidnap my conscience. It was laughable. I picked up the intercom. Security? Clear the lobby. Anyone not employed by this company is to be removed immediately. If she refuses to move, call the police and have her charged with trespassing and harassment. Yes, sir. I watched as the guards approached her. She shook her head, crying, struggling, but they eventually hauled her out by the arms. Just like at the gala, shameful and broken. I felt nothing. You made your bed, Maya. I thought that was the end of it. But that night, I got a call from a number I didn't know. It was a woman's voice, sharp, shrill, and nasty. Is this Caleb? This is Maya's mother. I frowned. It was her, the woman who had spent years telling me I was a loser and a failure. What do you want? You heartless monster. How dare you ask me that? She screamed. What did my Maya ever do to you? She gave you the best years of her life. Now that you're rich, you treat her like dirt? You had her dragged out of your building. Do you have a heart of stone? I almost laughed at the sheer audacity. Ma'am, are you confused? Weren't you the one who pressured her to dump me because I was poor? I was doing what any mother would do. I wanted her to have a good life. People break up all the time. She made one little mistake and you won't let it go. You're a man. How can you be so petty? Caleb, I'm telling you, Maya isn't eating or sleeping. She's a shadow of herself. If anything happens to her, it's on your head. You have to take responsibility. You have to marry her. I'd heard enough. Responsibility? Marry her? Ma'am, your daughter is worth less than a clearance item at a thrift store. At least those are honest about their price. She's a defective product who sells herself to the highest bidder. She sputtered. You want me to marry her? Fine, I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Tell her to go break Brad Montgomery's legs herself. Then, have her crawl back here on all fours and bark like a dog. Maybe then, I'll consider keeping her as a pet. You animal. You're not even human. Maya's mother shrieked until I hung up. I threw the phone on my desk. Dealing with people like that required being worse than them. If you give them an inch, they take a mile. The only way to make them stop is to humiliate them beyond repair. The Stevens family went quiet after that. My campaign against the Montgomerys, however, reached its conclusion. Robert's company went into liquidation. His houses and cars were seized by the bank. Overnight, he went from a billionaire to a man drowning in debt. I heard he had a stroke from the stress and ended up half paralyzed in a state hospital. As for Brad, the golden boy, he was broken. With his father gone and no friends left, he was forced to find work as a day laborer at a construction site just to eat. I had someone take a photo of him. He was covered in mud, crouching in a corner eating a cold sandwich, his eyes vacant and dead. I sent that photo anonymously to Maya. I wanted her to see exactly what future she had traded me for. A week later, our college class reunion came around. It was held at a 5-star hotel downtown. When the class rep posted the invite in the group chat, he tagged me specifically. Everyone knew who I was now. The chat was full of brown nosing. I didn't want to go. These things are fake and boring. But Serafina encouraged me. Go, she said with a smirk. Every story needs a finale. You should let them see where you stand now. And let her see reality one last time. I knew who she meant. The night of the reunion, I drove a $10 million Bugatti with Serafina in the passenger seat. When we walked into the private dining room, the place went silent. Every former classmate stood up, their faces a mix of awe and envy. Holy crap, Caleb, man, you're a legend. And this must be your fiancée? She's stunning. The class rep practically tripped over himself to lead me to the head of the table. I nodded politely and sat down with Serafina. I scanned the room and saw her. Maya. She was in the corner, head down, wearing a dress that looked like it came from a discount rack. She looked wilted. She didn't dare look at me once. The party was loud. Everyone crowded around me, trying to talk business, asking for tips, acting like I was the center of the universe. Maya sat ignored, a ghost at the feast. Halfway through the night, someone who'd had too much to drink started talking about the old days. A guy who used to be friends with Brad slurred, "Man, remember when Caleb and Maya were the it couple? They were perfect. Such a shame." The room went awkward. Everyone glanced between me and the shivering Maya. The guy didn't take the hint. But hey, can you blame her? Everyone wants the good life, right? Brad was the man back then. Too bad he's. The class rep covered the guy's mouth. "You're drunk. Shut up." Just then, the door opened. A waiter in a stained uniform came in to serve the next course. When he looked up, the room froze. It was Brad. The prince of the campus was now a waiter at the hotel. Brad's face turned bright red. His hands shook as he held a tray. Humiliation and rage warred in his eyes. He never expected to see his old classmates and his greatest enemy while he was serving soup. The silence was brutal. Everyone looked at him with a mix of pity and schadenfreude. Brad's lips trembled. He wanted to run, but he was stuck. He looked at me, and for a second, I saw the same terror from the sales office return his eyes. Clang! His hand slipped, and a plate of food shattered on the floor, splashing sauce everywhere. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry," he stammered, dropping to his knees to scramble for the broken porcelain. He looked like a wounded animal. In the corner, Maya started shaking. She looked at the pathetic man on the floor, then at me, the man who didn't even care enough to look back, and she looked like she couldn't breathe. "Get out!" The floor manager rushed in, kicking Brad in the side. "You useless idiot. You're ruining the guests' evening. Do you want to be fired?" Brad didn't fight back. He just held his head and apologized. I swirled my wine and spoke up quietly. "Wait." The manager froze, then put on a sycophantic smile. "Mr. Harrison, sir, how can I help you?" I pointed at Brad. "Let him stay." Everyone blinked, confused. Brad looked up, blinking. I smiled. "Let him serve our table specifically. He doesn't go home until we leave." The manager caught on immediately. "You heard him. Thank Mr. Harrison for the opportunity. Now get to work." Brad's face went through a dozen shades of shame. He knew I was doing this to torture him, to make him serve me in front of everyone who used to look up to him. It was worse than death. But he couldn't leave. He needed the job. "Yes. Thank you, Mr. Harrison," he whispered through gritted teeth. The rest of the night was an exercise in slow-motion agony for him. I had him pour my wine, and his hand shook so much he almost spilled it. I had him serve Serafina, who accidentally dropped her napkin. "Waiter, would you mind?" she asked with a sweet smile. Brad had to bend his noble back and pick it up while everyone watched. His dignity was officially pulverized. No one in the room spoke up for him. They were too busy trying to stay on my good side. When the reunion ended, I was feeling a nice buzz. Serafina helped me out to the car. Brad, like a ghost, followed us to the door to see us off. "Mr. Harrison, Ms. Thorne. Have a good night," he said, head bowed. I stopped and looked at him. "Brad." He flinched. "Do you know why you're here today?" He didn't answer, his eyes bloodshot. "Because you messed with the wrong person. And because you tried to claim a woman you didn't deserve." I wasn't talking about Maya. I was talking about the fact that a man like him wasn't even fit to be in the same world as someone like Serafina. I turned away, helped Serafina into the Bugatti, and we roared off into the night. In the rearview mirror, Brad's figure shrank until it was just a dark speck. I knew that man would never be a threat again. His life was over. In the car, Serafina drove while glancing at me with a smirk. "So, was that satisfying enough for you?" I leaned back, closing my eyes. "It was okay. Just okay," she teased. "You seemed to be enjoying yourself quite a bit when you were ordering him around." I opened my eyes and looked at her. "Yeah, it was great. Seeing the man who thought he could destroy me acting like a dog. It feels right. Good, she said. Half the debt is paid. And the other half is waiting for you to finish it. She nodded toward the road ahead. I knew what she meant. Brad was just a bully. The real wound had come from Maya. Finishing her didn't mean taking her money. It meant destroying her soul. When we arrived at the estate, I saw a figure huddled by the fountain. It was Maya. She must have been waiting for hours. Her hair was damp from the fountain spray, and she was shivering in the night air. When she saw the car, she scrambled toward me like a drowning person reaching for a branch. Caleb, my bodyguards stepped in front of her immediately. Caleb, please, stop it. Leave Brad alone. You've already destroyed him. What more do you want? She screamed. I looked at her, finding it genuinely hilarious. You're begging for him? After everything, you're still playing the loyal girlfriend? That's almost touching. Maya turned pale. No, that's not it. I'm just worried about you. Worried about me? I'm worried that you're being blinded by hate. She sobbed. Caleb, you've changed. You're terrifying now. You're a stranger. This isn't the Caleb I knew. The Caleb you knew? I laughed. That guy was killed by you and Brad. This is the real me. I tried to walk past her. Don't go. She suddenly broke past the guards and threw her arms around my waist from behind. Caleb, I was wrong. I know it now. I don't care if you forgive me. Just stop hurting me like this. Seeing Brad like that, it scares me. I'm afraid I'll end up like that too. Can't we just go back? I don't want the money or the cars anymore. I just want you. We can go back to that old apartment. I'll cook for you. I'll do your laundry. We could be like we were. Please. She pressed her face against my back, her tears soaking through my suit. I could feel her shaking. If this had happened 3 years ago, I would have been heartbroken. But now my heart was steel. I pried her fingers off me, one by one. I turned around and looked her in the eye. Go back. Maya, have you forgotten? You're tainted now. The words were a poison blade. She recoiled, her face turning a sickly white. She couldn't find the words. That was the one thing she could never change. The one thing I would never forget. Caleb, she whispered, her eyes full of a final, desperate plea. That was a mistake, but I'm still clean in my heart. I only ever loved you. She was trying to sell me her sincerity as a last resort. I looked at her crying face and felt nothing but revulsion. Your heart. I smiled. Your heart was in Brad's Porsche. It was in the designer bags he bought you. Now that he's got nothing, your heart magically found its way back to me. Don't you find that a little convenient? She had no answer. She just shook her head, sobbing harder. I was done talking. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small, red leather book with gold trim. I opened it and held it up. Inside were 2 photos, mine and Seraphina's. Both of us were smiling. Do you know what this is? I asked. Maya stared at the marriage certificate. Her brain seemed to stop. He's married? To that woman? When? How? No. It's fake. It has to be fake. She muttered, reaching out to grab it. I pulled it away easily. Fake? Maya, you overestimate your importance. I watched her face twist with despair. I spoke the words I had practiced in my head 1,000 times. The girl I protected since we were kids. I wouldn't even touch her out of respect. Yet she gave herself away to a stranger the moment she went to college. You told me you lost your most precious gift and asked if I still wanted you. Now let me tell you. I smiled, brightly, cruelly. My first time was already reserved for my bride. Unfortunately, it wasn't you. Boom. The final sentence hit her like a thunderbolt. Every fantasy, every hope of a reconciliation was vaporized. She had thought I was just angry. She thought that because I loved her for so long, I would eventually fold. But I had given my first time the very thing she had thrown away to someone else. I had a new wife, a new life, and she was absolutely nothing to me. Maya let out a scream that didn't even sound human. She clutched her head, her mind finally snapping. She looked at me with pure, unadulterated venom. Caleb Harrison, you liar. You monster. You ruined me. You took everything from me. I hate you. I'll haunt you for the rest of your life. She lunged at me, claws out, trying to tear at my face. I didn't move. My guards tackled her to the ground instantly. She thrashed and screamed and cursed beneath them. I looked down at her with total indifference, as if looking at a stranger on the street. Take her to the facility, I told the guards. Yes, sir. No, let me go. Caleb, I hope you rot. Her voice faded into the night as they dragged her away. I knew where she was going, a private psychiatric ward. She would spend the rest of her life in a room, haunted by what she had thrown away. That was her price. I stood by the fountain for a long time. The night wind was cold. A dream that had started in my childhood had finally, mercifully, ended. I went back inside. Seraphina was on the sofa. She didn't ask what happened. She just handed me a glass of water. Is it over? She asked softly. Yeah, it's over. I drank the water in one gulp. Then I suppose we should start planning the actual wedding ceremony? Serafina's eyes were bright with anticipation. I felt a surge of warmth. The past was gone. My life was finally beginning. I took her hand. Serafina, thank you. For what? For being here. She smiled and squeezed my hand. Silly man. We're in this together, aren't we? A month later, our wedding took place on a private island. It was a global event. Presidents, CEOs, and celebrities flew in to celebrate. Grandfather sat in the front row, a look of pure pride on his face. I had passed his test. I hadn't just gotten revenge. I had grown into the man who could lead his empire. At the ceremony, I wore a white tuxedo, and Serafina wore a gown that seemed made of starlight. When we exchanged rings and kissed, I felt a level of peace I never knew existed. I realized, then, that if you walk away from a dying tree, you eventually find a whole forest. Maya and Brad were distant memories. They were just pebbles I'd stepped over on my way to the top. After the wedding, we went on a world tour for our honeymoon. Paris, Rome, the Maldives. We forgot the world and focused only on each other. During the trip, Thomas called. He told me that Robert Montgomery had passed away in that state hospital, alone and broke. Maya's mother, unable to handle her daughter's insanity and her son-in-law's disappearance, had also passed away shortly after. I heard the news and felt nothing. Karma is a simple thing. They planted the seeds. They harvested the fruit. It had nothing to do with me anymore. My future was the horizon. They were just the dust behind me. When we returned, I officially took over the Harrison Group. Grandfather retired to his garden and his scotch, happy to let me run the show. With Serafina and the Thorne family behind me, the Harrison Group grew faster than ever. Within 3 years, we were a global titan. Caleb Harrison became a legend in the business world. People knew me as the man who was ruthless and brilliant. Very few knew the story of the broke student who got his heart broken. Sometimes, late at night, I think about the little girl who used to call me Caleb with a sweet smile. But that memory is blurry now, like a dream from a different life. My marriage with Serafina only grew stronger. She gave me twins, a boy named Nathan and a girl named Ava. I gave them all the love I had. I became the best father and husband I could be. I wanted to make sure they never had to learn the lessons I did. One sunny afternoon, I was having a picnic with Serafina and the kids on our lawn. Watching the children run through the grass and seeing Serafina's radiant smile, I felt a deep, settled satisfaction. This was the future I always wanted. It just took a different person to get me here. Serafina walked over and hugged me from behind. What are you thinking about? I smiled and held her hand. Just thinking about how lucky I am. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Me too. The sun was warm. The kids were laughing. My life, after the storm of betrayal and the fire of revenge, was finally clear and bright. As for the people who hurt me, who even remembers their names? Youth might be full of regrets, but thankfully, there are no do-overs. There are only results. And I'm very happy with mine. Story complete.